Caregiving changes the economy of your whole life, not just your money, your time, your energy, sleep, freedom, attention, and even your sense of self. And when all of these resources become scarce, your financial behavior can start to change too. You might order more food, buy yourself little things, pay for convenience, slow down your saving goals, and spend money in ways that don't look like you. And that doesn't automatically mean you've lost discipline. Sometimes caregiving requires a different set of money rules. So today I want to talk to you about what happens to our money when we're caring for someone we love and how to protect our finances without pretending we have the same capacity we had before. Welcome back to Unfuck Your Money, the podcast where go-getters thrive financially. Have you ever noticed that most people know what they should be doing financially? They know that they should be saving more, spending less, paying off their debt, invest, budget, and stop emotional spending. Well, so why don't they? If information was enough, we'd all have healthy saving accounts and retirement funds bursting at the seams. I don't think the problem is a lack of information. In fact, many of my clients can recite every personal finance book under the sun. Financial advice isn't necessarily wrong. However, it assumes that we are operating at full capacity. The challenge is trying to apply good financial advice while also navigating real life. Stress, uncertainty, things like illness, caregiving, grief, burnout, the rising cost of living, relationship challenges, and everyday pressures of just being human. My name is Nadz. I am a behavioral finance coach and a somatic practitioner, and over the past 7 years, I have helped clients pay off debt, reduce financial anxiety, build savings, increase their income, and create healthier financial habits and develop a calmer, more empowered relationship with money. Because financial wellness isn't just about numbers. It's about understanding the behavior behind your money so you can bridge the gap between knowing what to do and actually doing it. My hope is that every episode leaves you with a little bit more awareness, a little bit more self-compassion, and one practical step you can take towards a healthier relationship with your money and with yourself. Now, let's dive into today's episode. Welcome back. So before caring for my 17-year-old dog, I never really understood what caregiving actually required. You might be caring for a sick pet too, or a parent, or a friend, or a sibling, or a spouse right now, and you understand that caregiving is, yes, it's just a beautiful part of loving someone deeply. But caregiving can be exhausting, it can be frustrating and painful as fuck. But it can also be beautiful. There is something very extraordinary about being able to make someone you love feel safe and cared for when they are at their most vulnerable. For me, caregiving has become one of love's many faces because it is an honor to be taking care of our little princess Arby when she needs us the most. But here's the harsh truth. Caregiving sometimes means setting our lives aside. Not only do we set our lives aside, but we are somehow forced to become less of a priority, even to ourselves. Yes, on some days, I found myself having to set my needs, my desires, my dreams aside, especially when grief is involved. And what I've seen is that caregiving can come with all sorts of grief. Anticipatory grief, grieving the life that you once had, or the potential loss of the person that you are caring for. And yeah, let's name it as it is, grieving the time that you will never get back as you navigate the health system. That shit, it's real too. Grief and all the mixed emotions and the hypervigilance that comes with caregiving can really preoccupy your mind. I remember when Arby first got out of the ICU a few months ago, I could not sleep. I kept checking on her breathing. I kept checking on her meds. It felt like everything felt like a damn emergency until she stabilized. But even now, on days when she's doing fine, I would feel super guilty for wanting to have alone time, to go out, to go to a class, to close the door and just be in my office, or even just asking my husband to take care of her or take her out in the morning when he's home, so I can sleep for 30 more minutes. I feel guilty for having needs. And yes, it feels so absurd saying this out loud, but only another caregiver would know what I mean. I don't think this is a sign of weakness or a sign of martyrdom. I think this is love in its purest form. It's a kind of devotion. But I'm here to tell you from my experience that even if this impulse is real, even if sometimes I find myself framing taking care of myself as I must take care of myself so I can take better care of Arby, you really, really, really cannot give from an empty cup. Yep, the cliche is real. When you're caregiving, your cup gets emptied rather quickly with all sorts of responsibilities: medications, appointments, toileting, feeding, worrying, interrupted sleep, and yes, grief. And in addition to all of these responsibilities, there's the emotional component of, everything that feels very, very heavy. And with all this on your plate, you might find that your life is disappearing because caregiving doesn't just ask us to give our time. It might require us to have smaller needs, smaller dreams, smaller life, smaller freedom, smaller attention towards ourselves. And if we're not careful, our identity can start shrinking down to one role, which is the caregiver role. So, how do we continue loving someone else without disappearing ourselves? And how do we care for ourselves as we are giving care to others? And how do I give care without losing myself and without spending all my savings on bullshit or losing my mind? A few weeks ago, I realized something quite uncomfortable. Shopping had started to become one of the easiest ways for me to care for myself. It gave me novelty, it gave me something to look forward to, it gave me some kind of reward for all the hard work that I'm doing. It gave me a tiny moment of choice and a reminder that I still mattered. Shopping wasn't about consumption for me. It was the hug that I really needed. And let me tell you, when we are sleep deprived, when we are emotionally depleted, when we are consumed by grief, by worry, it is easier for us to ignore all of our money rules, our money goals, and even our budgets. Throughout the past months, I learned that caregivers deserve and need a different set of money rules because caregiving creates scarcity, and we all know that scarcity changes behavior. Caregiving creates scarcity, but yes, it does, but not necessarily financial scarcity at first. At first, it might look like scarcity of time, sleep, freedom, spontaneity, attention, novelty, a scarcity of pleasure, privacy, energy, and of choice. And when these things become scarce, we naturally start looking for ways to get some of them back. And that is where the role of money becomes incredibly interesting because ordering food may buy relief. Buying the craft supplies may buy anticipation and play. Coffee may buy 10 minutes that belong just to you. Shopping may create novelty when every day feels painfully repetitive. Paying for help may buy back an hour of your capacity and restore your sanity. Sometimes the thing that we might call bad spending is happening in a life where somebody desperately is short on care for themselves. Sometimes money becomes the easiest available way to meet a need that caregiving has made really, really unavailable or scarce. Like we said, relief and choice and pleasure and convenience and a breath of fresh air and beauty and novelty and autonomy and being cared for. Money can actually meet those needs in some way or another. So we now start, with all this information, we can now start asking better questions. Instead of asking, how do I stop spending? We can start asking, what is this purchase trying to give me? And is there a way to meet that need intentionally? And when I say intentionally, I mean sometimes we can choose to meet that need with money and sometimes without it. And this is really important because I don't want the takeaway from this episode to be don't soothe yourself with money when you're in a phase of caregiving. Sometimes spending money is the absolute right choice because caregiving, it changes everything. And for me, it changed a lot of my financial landscape because it involves caregiving expenses, capacity buying expenses, and self-replenishment or self-nourishment spending. So I'll give you examples of that so you know what I mean. Some direct caregiving expenses is medical care, medication, travel, that has to do with getting medical care, special foods, home modifications, pet care, maybe losing work, maybe you're helping somebody out financially, maybe you're dealing with insurance and medical system nonsense and paying for things that the healthcare system does not cover. This is a straightforward financial cost, and there are other costs, what I would call a capacity buying expense, which is paying for delivery or takeout, or paying for someone to clean your house, or respite care, getting childcare, getting pre-prepared foods, or maybe taking an Uber instead of taking three buses to get to where you want, or paying somebody to do the thing that you technically could do yourself, but you make a decision to pay someone to do it for you. Um, Traditionally, somebody might look at these expenses and say, cut back. But in a caregiving season, sometimes you aren't purchasing convenience, you're purchasing capacity, you're purchasing time, sanity, energy, and space. Which takes me to the third spending category that has introduced itself since becoming a caregiver myself, which is the self nourishing or self replenishment spending. And for me, that looks like buying a coffee or buying craft supplies, dancing, going to dance classes more, books, flowers, a subscription that I really like, a little gift for yourself, little things that remind you that you still exist and you still matter outside of the caregiving role. And this is why I believe that as caregivers, we might need different money rules. So I'm going to tell you what my new money rules are, and you might, want to adopt all four of them, or you might want to pick and choose what aligns for you at this moment. So, money rule number one, being in maintenance phase is a legitimate financial goal. Financial maturity includes financial flexibility, which is the ability to adapt your expectations to the season of life you're actually living in. Maybe this is not the season to aggressively pay down debt or maximize savings. Maybe the goal right now is to maintain or avoid making things worse and to protect your well being, because some seasons are growth seasons and some seasons are just maintenance seasons, and that is not a failure. Money rule number two, you are allowed to buy capacity. So don't criticize yourself for, oh my God, here's another payment or here's another transaction that I made on Uber or DoorDash or whatever it is, not sponsored. Ask yourself, what is this purchase buying besides food? Is it buying an hour of your time? Is it reducing decision making or decision fatigue? Is it allowing you to sleep or maintaining your energy and sanity by avoiding the 17th load of dishes that you have to do today? Is it removing one demand from a day that contains 6 to 8 other demands? It may still be financially unsustainable. I'm not telling you that all convenience spending is wise. This is not money rule number two is about, but it is about evaluating the actual transaction. So let's say you spend $35 on Thai food. Maybe these $35 are not just the food. Maybe it's buying you food and the fact that you're not cooking and you're not doing dishes, and it's buying you 45 minutes of rest and one fewer decision. Now, when we look at the equation this way, that is when we decide that it is actually worth $35 out of your finances. That is what intentional spending looks like to me. Not asking whether something is objectively worth it, but understanding what you're actually buying and deciding whether the trade off is something that works in your life or works for your life right now. All right, so money rule number three is to budget for being a person. So put some money aside if you can. And I totally understand if in this season of your life, when you're maybe caregiving more than you're working, that's fine. I know that that's not possible. But if it is possible for you, can you put some money aside to spend money on yourself guilt free? If you can't do that, maybe asking yourself, what or how can I nourish myself in a way right now that does not require much money? So, budgeting for being a person means budgeting for the things that remind you or make you who you are, whether it's a dance class, whether it's I don't know, doing your nails. I don't personally do my nails out, but like maybe that's something that makes you feel more like you, maybe getting a massage, getting your hair done, all that stuff. It's not frivolous because it's restoring your personhood. Money rule number four, support may become essential in this phase in your life and not a luxury, because in a caregiving season, support needs to move to a higher rank on your priority list. Doesn't have to, but for me, it really had to. That might look like hiring someone to help you at home or hiring someone in your business. It might need therapy. Therapy for me right now is a non-negotiable. It's the only thing that keeps me sane sometimes. Maybe it's joining a support group or going out for dinner with a friend, or it might look like hiring a dog walker or a babysitter, or just asking a sibling to take a shift, or hiring a house cleaner, or I don't know, somebody to come cook for you, whatever it is. So these things, it's okay if they climb up your priority list in this phase of your life, because as a caregiver, you also require care. So let's condense these into a practical tool. Before judging the spending, ask yourself, what is this purchase trying to give me? Then ask yourself, is this how I want to take care of myself right now? Do I want to meet that need this way? Pausing and asking yourself this question is a huge practice, because it will change your behavior from an impulse, from an urge, into a choice. Okay. And again, I want to say this again. Sometimes you will choose to take care of yourself in a way that is financial, and that's okay. All right. I also want to talk about managing our emotions. Our emotions play a very big role in our finances, but as a somatic practitioner, I really have a few things that I would like to share with you about navigating the deep, complicated emotions that can come hand in hand with caregiving. They're really important. So, the first thing I want to say is quite controversial. I want to tell you to stop beating yourself up for having poor boundaries when you're in this caregiving phase of your life. Because, yeah, cool, having good boundaries are essential, they're ideal. However, when you're caregiving, it's not always possible, because things are often out of your control when someone is relying on you 100%. One morning when I was feeling really frazzled, I was on the phone to my mom, and she was telling me that I needed better boundaries. And she had very good intentions, but she asked me, what if a friend of yours is in this situation? What would you tell them? I straight away said I would not tell them they needed better boundaries, but I would ask her, what does she need right now? How can I help her? Because if she were local, I'd go to her house. I might help her clean if that's what she needs. I might cook a meal for her every week. I would help her by intentionally helping her replenish her capacity, because carers, we need care. So please don't beat yourself up about boundaries. This is not a question of having poor or strong boundaries or people pleasing, because the internet, the whole world might say, oh, you need better boundaries. No, seriously, it won't work here. There aren't any boundaries to set sometimes. The problem is not that you didn't learn how to say no, but there's genuinely a huge amount of things to be done. Your partner who is sick, they still need medications at a certain time. Your dog will need to poo and go outside at 2 in the morning. Your parent might still need help with going to the bathroom. Your toddler who has a fever will still wake up screaming at 2 in the morning. Your fragile mother might still need financial support. No amount of boundaries will make these real life demands disappear. So, just as my mom's example, sometimes the most helpful response isn't teaching or isn't criticizing yourself as a caregiver to have better boundaries. It's really how to protect your capacity. It's not how to protect yourself from the person that needs your care. It is asking, how do I bring more care to me? Okay. So, fuck better boundaries. The question becomes, given the reality of my life right now, how do I protect and restore my capacity? Boundaries are great. They protect some of our resources, but capacity is what determines how much we can realistically carry. And that might look like organizing our finances to do that for us, because it's real. This is life. Not everybody can be there for us. And sometimes the only thing that can be there for us is our past selves, the part of us that put the money aside, or the money that we're making right now can take the role of taking care of us. And there's no shame in that. Okay. But I want to add one more thing about boundaries here before we move on. When they're available, especially around non-essential demands, please use your boundaries. You may not be able to say no to giving medication or helping your mom financially, but perhaps you can say no to organizing somebody else's birthday party next weekend or something like that. Okay. So just be mindful of this. Okay. So the other thing I really want to name is, before we make self-care a spiritually complicated obligation, what your body sometimes needs is very, very ordinary care. Because sometimes when we're preoccupied taking care of somebody else, we ignore our most basic needs. So, ask yourself periodically throughout the day, am I thirsty? Do I need to drink water? Do I need to eat? Am I cold? Is that why things are feeling really urgent? Is it because I'm cold? Sometimes I'm cold because things feel urgent because I'm cold. Honestly, like, I don't know. Do you need to pee? Do you need fresh air? Do you need to move your body? But for the love of God, please set aside all the optimization and intense physical exercises if your body is tired. Sometimes what restores your body is dance and movement. Yes, that's awesome, but sometimes it's just rest. Sometimes it's just staring into space. So please ask your body what it actually needs, rather than turning self-care into this oh my God, heavy thing that you have to do. And please, 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 with this optimize every free moment bullshit, also throw that out of the window, because yes, I know free moments can be hard to come by. Sometimes you have a free 15 minutes or 30 minutes and you want to clean the bathroom that is dirty, or you really want to cook that meal. Yes, this is all important, but sometimes when you can afford it, watch a silly show, do nothing, because nourishment doesn't have to look productive. It can look like building tiny islands of recovery. One of the most cool things that my therapist told me about is, Nadine, you have to include at least 5 minutes of silliness and something frivolous or unproductive into your day, because these tiny islands, it's going to expose your nervous system into experiencing things that are different, things that are like laughter, movement, music, creativity, friendship, nature. These things don't make your problems go away, but they will restore your capacity. Think of them as like, I call them tiny islands of respite, or you can call them little mental holidays. Okay. So self-care for me these days does not look like, yoga nidra or meditation or eating more vegetables. Sometimes it looks like doing my embroidery and watching a rom-com that I have seen a million times before. Because when life feels unpredictable, when everything is uncertain, listening or watching something that feels predictable and comforting, that can balance out all the unpredictability and the uncertainty of your life. Because when life contains a lot of that stuff, there is something very comforting in choosing something that is predictable, or, low stakes pleasure kind of thing. So it's not about the silly shows. It's not about the embroidery. It's not about the dance classes that I kept harping on and on about in this episode. It's really all about restoring your capacity, but also restoring your identity, because that caregiving, it can consume so much of our identity identity that our nourishment isn't just about feeling better, it's about reminding us of who we are. You are also a friend, you are also a business owner, you are also a dancer, a partner, an artist, a person with dreams and desires, a person who likes to sleep, a person who likes to travel, a person who wants to fuck around and watch silly TV. Here, your hobbies matter because there's evidence that you still exist. Okay. And I know that you might be a bad receiver because I could be a bad receiver sometimes. So for the love of God, please, please, please allow people to do things for you when they offer. Allow your friend to cook you dinner. Allow your friend or whatever to walk the dog or pick up groceries or sit with you as you vent or cry. Just receive, my love. It's okay. So let's wrap up this long ass episode. We don't have to eliminate grief before we're allowed to experience joy, because part of caregiving may be learning that these complicated, contradictory emotions, they exist at the same time. It's part of life. It's not just caregiving. It's just, the reality of life. You can laugh with someone you're terrified of losing. You can have coffee with a friend and still be devoted and loving to the person or the pet that is waiting for you at home. You can still go to dance class and laugh with your friends. You can watch a stupid romantic comedy while somebody is sick next to you. You can leave the house for an hour or 15 minutes, and that's not evidence that you care less. Having a good day is not betrayal. And if you're caregiving right now, I hope you hear this. Before you criticize yourself because your finances or your habits look different, maybe you're not accomplishing what you would normally do, maybe you're not as productive as you'd like to be, please remind yourself, you're in a different season in life right now. And what would your financial care look like in this season? Because it's not just about building our finances. It's also about how can your finances care for you in every season in your life. Maybe right now, the goal is not financial or life optimization. Maybe it's just maintenance. Maybe it's just scaling back so that you can, create a comfort zone for yourself. Maybe it's letting somebody help, okay? And if you want help figuring out what your money needs to look like right now inside of this reality, please go ahead and book an introductory coaching session with me through the link in the show notes. I would love to support you in this season of your life. Love you and leave you. Please take care, and I'll see you next time on Unfuck Your Money. Bye for now.